What do you mean you don't hire ugly people? That sentence stopped Hudson Grant cold. He hadn't planned to step into his own cafe today. Actually, he hadn't stepped foot into this location store number 4 out of 7 since his father passed it down to him 2 years ago. It wasn't personal, it was just business. With 7 cafes spread across 3 cities, he focused on expansion, vendor contracts, and the company's image. The day-to-day was left to his district managers and store managers. He trusted them. But lately, reviews from this location in Eastfield had been slipping. Nothing major, just little things. Cold coffee, slow service, rude staff. He asked district manager Kyle about it, but Kyle brushed it off as young blood getting lazy. Still, something didn't sit right. So here Hudson was, wearing a gray hoodie, beat-up jeans, and thick-rimmed fake glasses. He'd shaved his beard, dyed his hair darker, and even added a slight limp to sell the image of a limping food service worker named Ned. He'd created a fake resume through a staffing agency they worked with, no red flags, just enough to get him in as a 2-day trial barista. That's how no one recognized him. Most of the team were new, hired within the last 6 months. The manager here, a woman named Kendra, had never personally met him. That was intentional. Hudson liked to see how his cafes operated when no one knew the boss was watching. He'd only been behind the counter for 2 hours when he overheard it. It came from the back hallway near the storeroom. Hudson had just finished wiping down tables when he passed by and caught the tail end of a conversation between Kendra and a young woman with a ponytail, Olive, if he remembered correctly. She was soft-spoken and kind, always covering for others on the floor. "I don't care if she's got a good heart," Kendra snapped. "This place has a vibe. You think customers want to be served by someone with acne scars and greasy hair?" Olive's voice cracked. "But she's a hard worker. She's been trying for weeks, and you told her you'd call." "I told her that to get her off my back," Kendra said. "She's not the look we want. This isn't charity, Olive. And don't bring it up again." Hudson froze. His hand tightened on the rag he was holding. He stepped back slowly before they saw him. He didn't say anything. Not yet. Instead, he clocked out early, saying the limp was acting up. On his way out, he watched Olive take over the register while Kendra laughed with another worker, tossing out sarcastic comments about a customer's outfit. Hudson sat in his car for a long time, staring through the windshield. His father built these cafes to serve the community, to give people a place they felt welcome. He didn't build it to become another place where people were judged by how they looked. Hudson returned the next day, same disguise, same limp. This time, he stayed close to the kitchen. He watched how Kendra barked orders, how she rolled her eyes when a customer asked for help, how she ignored the 2 staff members struggling at the bar. Olive, again, picked up the slack. When the rush died down, Hudson asked Olive casually, "Hey, that girl Kendra was talking about, is she a friend of yours?" Olive looked surprised. "You heard that?" He nodded. "She's my cousin," Olive said quietly. "She's smart. She's been trying to get a job here for a month. Kendra told her to come in 3 times, then ghosted her. She cried last week." Hudson clenched his jaw. "That normal here?" Olive hesitated. "She's not like that with everyone. Just if she doesn't like how you look, or talk, or dress." Hudson didn't say anything more. He just got back to work. At closing, Kendra finally acknowledged him. "Ned, right? You're decent. Don't slow us down, and you might stick around." Hudson forced a smile. "Thanks." But the next morning, he didn't show up as Ned. He showed up as himself. Suit. Clean-shaven.
No limp. No hoodie.
The staff was already prepping for the day when he walked in. A few looked confused. Kendra came out of the back, frowning. "Can I help you?" Hudson stepped forward.
"Yes. I'm Hudson Grant."
"I own this place." Silence. Kendra's face went pale. Olive, standing by the espresso machine, stared with wide eyes. Hudson took a deep breath. "And I've been working here the last 2 days." Undercover. Kendra opened her mouth, but no words came. I heard everything, Hudson said. Especially what you said about not hiring someone because of how she looked. Kendra flinched. That was taken out of, no, it wasn't. His voice was flat. And it stops now. Kendra didn't blink. She stepped forward, her tone clipped but controlled. Mr. Grant, I wasn't aware you were visiting today. If I'd known, you would have put on a show, Hudson interrupted. That's why I didn't tell you. I needed to see what this place was like when no one thought I was watching. He turned away from her and addressed the team. Everyone finish prep. Store opens in 20 minutes. You're not in trouble. Except for one of you. Kendra's expression tightened. She opened her mouth again, but Hudson raised a hand. Office, he said firmly.
Now.
She walked ahead of him, stiffly. Hudson followed her into the back room and shut the door behind them. You're done here, he said before she could sit. I'm terminating your employment effective immediately. That's completely out of line, she snapped. You can't just, yes, I can. And I am. You openly discriminated against a job applicant based on appearance, mocked customers, and created a toxic environment where your staff walks on eggshells. Her jaw clenched. You have no idea what it takes to run this place. The people you're defending? They're lazy. They need babysitting every second. That's not what I saw, Hudson said. I saw a crew picking up your slack while you stood around making jokes. I saw a young woman cover 2 stations while you ignored her. Kendra folded her arms. That's management. Delegation. He leaned forward slightly. Delegation is not exploitation. You want to argue? Take it up with HR. But you're done here. She studied him for a moment, then let out a dry laugh. You think firing me is going to fix this dump? He didn't answer that. Just open the door. Leave your keys at the register, he said as she walked out. Back on the floor, the team had clearly heard enough to piece it together. Kendra tossed her apron on the counter without a word and walked out the door. No one followed her.
No one said goodbye.
Hudson turned to the team. They looked uncertain, waiting for the next shock. Let's get through this morning together, he said. I'll be on bar. Heads nodded. Quietly, people returned to their stations. Olive kept her eyes down as she prepped the register. Hudson approached her. Can you take 5? She hesitated. I can, but there's no one to cover. I'll cover it, he said. Go. She followed him to the back hallway, standing near the staff lockers. I owe you an apology, he said. You spoke up, and I didn't step in right away. You were undercover, she said quickly. It's not your fault. He shook his head. I heard something wrong, and I waited to act. That's not leadership. She looked up slowly. It's been like that for a while. I kept hoping things would get better. Why didn't anyone report her? She was clever about it. Never said anything when customers were around. And Kyle always took her side. Hudson narrowed his eyes. You told Kyle?
Twice.
He said she had high productivity numbers and that I was being overly sensitive. After that, I stopped. Hudson exhaled through his nose. You won't have to deal with that again. Not from her, and not from Kyle. She looked surprised. Are you? I'm not making any decisions yet, he said. But I'll be visiting every store this week. Quietly. He walked her back to the front and stepped behind the register while she tied her apron again. The store opened on time. The first few hours ran smoother than expected. Without Kendra hovering, the team coordinated naturally. People asked for help when they needed it. A quiet rhythm formed. By late morning, Hudson noticed something that hadn't been obvious during the undercover shift. There were too few bodies on the floor. During peak, 2 people had to cover food, bar, and register. That wasn't sustainable. It explained the cold drinks and long waits mentioned in recent reviews. When the lunch rush hit, the lines stretched to the door. Hudson jumped between drink orders and restocking cups. A tall guy with a shaved head named Dion handled food prep with quiet efficiency. He stayed calm even when 3 sandwiches came in at once. Across from him, a younger barista named Mia struggled with the espresso machine. "Something's wrong with the grinder," she muttered. Hudson stepped over. "Show me." She pointed. "It keeps jamming. I told Kendra last week." She said to jiggle the hopper. "That's not fixing it." He peered inside. The burrs were cracked. "Shut it down," he said. "We'll use the backup." "There's no backup," she said. "She sent it to another store last month." Hudson straightened. "She didn't report that to anyone?" Mia shook her head, said it wasn't worth the paperwork. He looked toward the register. A woman in her 70s waited patiently in line, holding a newspaper. Behind her, a man in a business suit checked his watch. Hudson stepped back into the kitchen. "Dion, how long have you been here?" 8 months, he said without looking up. "How often are you short-staffed?" 3 days a week, minimum. Why didn't anyone say anything? Dion slid a sandwich onto a tray. "Kendra said we were over budget." Kyle backed her up. Hudson nodded. "Thanks." When the rush died down, Hudson stepped outside and pulled out his phone. He called the regional facilities manager. "I need a new grinder sent to Eastfield
Today.
Also, check if we have a spare espresso unit in storage." Next, he called HR. "I want Kyle suspended pending investigation. I'll file a formal report by end of day." He stepped back inside and gathered the team around the front counter. "I want to be clear," he said. "What happened here wasn't your fault. You weren't supported. That ends now." A few people exchanged glances. Mia folded her arms across her chest. "What happens next?" "Tomorrow, someone from HR will be here to talk to each of you privately. I want honest feedback. Nothing gets swept under the rug." "And after that?" Dion asked. "I'm assigning an interim manager. Someone from another location with experience and a clean record. Until then, I'll be here. We'll fix the schedule, repair the equipment, and hire more staff." Olive looked uncertain. "Can we actually get more people?" "We've been told for months we're at max." "You were told wrong," Hudson said. "We'll open a hiring round this week. You'll help pick who joins." That seemed to land. The tension in the air lightened, just slightly. As the team returned to work, Hudson grabbed a clipboard and stepped into the storeroom. He began checking inventory himself: beans, syrups, paper products. Several items were running low. That matched what he'd seen in the POS data last week, but now he understood why. Supply orders had been manipulated to look balanced. Kendra had been underordering to meet budget caps, even if it hurt service. He took photos, made notes, and sent them to procurement. By the time the sun dipped behind the buildings, the team was running on fumes. Hudson bought pizzas from next door, and they crowded onto milk crates in the back to eat. No one said much at first. Then Olive broke the silence. "I didn't think you'd actually care." Hudson looked up from his slice. "That's why I came. Because I wasn't sure I was doing enough." Mia spoke next. "You saw yourself." "We're drowning most days." "I'm not here to pretend I have all the answers," Hudson said. "But I know what I saw, and I know it's on me to fix it." Dion leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "We've had district folks promise things before. Nothing changed." Hudson nodded. "That's fair. So, let's not promise. Let's prove." They ate quietly after that, but the air felt different. Not relaxed, but less tense. A beginning. When the last customer left and the doors were locked, Hudson helped mop the floor. He took out the trash, scrubbed tables, and cleaned the drain under the ice bin. As he wiped his hands on a towel, Olive passed him on her way out. She paused at the door. "You staying undercover at the other stores too?" "Only one way to see the truth," he said. She gave a slow nod. "Then good luck. Some of them are worse." The next morning, Hudson stood outside the Ashbury Café, his flagship store, and the first one his father ever opened. He hadn't planned to visit this one until later in the week, but a call from procurement changed that. The espresso machine here had been replaced without a proper work order by request of someone at Eastfield. That meant Kendra hadn't just reassigned equipment, she'd taken it from the busiest location in the chain. And no one had raised a flag. Hudson pulled the brim of his cap lower and stepped through the front doors, this time using a different name and an even simpler cover. Temp delivery help. Just a guy checking in on product flow. Not technically a lie, he was carrying a clipboard and had a vendor tag from one of their third-party suppliers. The cafe was already moving at full speed. A pair of employees rushed between the bar and bakery case, while the lines stretched nearly to the door. The layout was tighter than Eastfield's, with less prep space and more foot traffic. The air smelled like scorched milk, someone had burned a few pitchers already. Behind the bar, a young man with thick glasses and a shaved head fumbled with the milk wand while trying to keep up with orders. He moved quickly, but kept glancing toward the back hallway like he was expecting to be criticized. Next ticket, flat white and a drip to go, called a woman from the register. The barista nodded but overfilled the jug and had to start over. Hudson stepped to the side and watched. There was no backup, no shift lead to help. Just him, the cashier, and a woman in the kitchen who looked barely older than high school. A tall man in a navy shirt emerged from the office and scanned the floor. He had a heavy walk and a clipboard under one arm. "Marcus," he barked. "Why's this ticket taking 3 minutes?" The barista jumped slightly. "I'm sorry. I had to reset the wand. Reset faster. This isn't training wheels anymore." Hudson narrowed his eyes. The man was clearly in charge. But he didn't step in to assist. He just hovered, arms crossed, then turned toward the kitchen. "Lena, those sandwiches still waiting?" "I'm trying. The bacon's not ready yet," she called back. "Try faster." Hudson followed him with his eyes. The manager, his badge read Paul, store lead, wasn't helping anyone, just pacing between stations and barking corrections. He didn't seem to notice the customer at the end of the counter trying to flag someone down to ask about an order. Hudson stepped closer to the bar. "You okay?" he asked the barista. Marcus gave a quick, awkward nod.
Yeah.
Just backed up. Happens a lot this time. Hudson glanced at the queue on the screen. 23 drinks in the pipeline. You need a second set of hands. Marcus muttered. We usually have one, but she quit last week. Said she couldn't take it anymore. Hudson didn't reply. He stepped toward the back hallway, passing Paul as he returned from the kitchen. Vendor delivery? Paul asked, eyeing the clipboard. Just checking drop accuracy, Hudson said. Mind if I look at your dry storage? Paul waved him through, already turning his attention to a ringing phone. Make it fast. Inside the storeroom, Hudson scanned quickly. Syrup levels were lower than they should have been midweek. Cup sizes were mixed across brands. He jotted notes and moved toward the back fridge, then paused. 2 employees were crouched beside the cooler, whispering. I tried to tell him, one said quietly. But he just said, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. The other shook her head. I'm not wasting another lunch break, crying in the alley. He doesn't care. Hudson didn't move. The women hadn't seen him. He threw out my schedule requests last week. The first one went on. Said my classes weren't his problem. The other side. I'm not even supposed to be full-time. I'm covering shifts for 2 people who quit. Hudson backed away quietly before they noticed. He returned to the front, where Marcus wiped down the bar while trying to take another order. Paul stood near the window, scrolling on his phone. Hudson stepped in. Can I speak to you in the office? Paul looked up. You got a problem with the drop? Office, Hudson said again, voice sharper now. Paul shrugged.
Phoenix.
Inside, Hudson closed the door and locked it behind him.
I'm Hudson Grant.
Paul blinked. Wait, what? I own this cafe, and the 6 others like it. Paul's mouth opened slightly, but Hudson cut him off. I've been here for less than an hour, and I've already seen 3 people working past their pace limit, one openly struggling, and you walking around doing nothing but criticize. Paul leaned back slowly. You can't judge a store off 1 hour. There's context. I'm not interested in context, Hudson said. I'm interested in what I just witnessed. Overloaded employees, ignored safety protocols, and 2 people in the back afraid to speak up because they think you'll retaliate. Paul's jaw shifted. That's hearsay. No, Hudson said. That's a pattern. And it ends today. Paul stood up. I'm not going to be lectured by someone who hasn't set foot in this store in 2 years. You're right, Hudson said. That's on me. I trusted that people like you would lead with integrity. I was wrong. Paul took a half step forward. You want to take this up with HR?
Fine.
But you're not walking in here and firing me on the spot. I'm not walking out without doing exactly that. Hudson opened the door again. Leave your keys at the register. You're done. Paul didn't argue. He walked out stiffly, tossed his keys on the counter, and left without a word. Hudson turned to the bar. Everyone, gather up. The team slowly drifted in front of him, 5 in total. He recognized the 2 from the storeroom, now clearly uncomfortable. Marcus stood silently, arms folded. I'm not going to give you a speech, Hudson said. But I will say this: you shouldn't be scared to ask for help. And you won't be anymore. No one said anything. One of the women from the back finally asked, Is he really gone? Hudson nodded. Effective immediately. What about the schedule? Marcus asked. Tomorrow's open. No one's assigned to bar. I'll be here, Hudson said. We'll get through the week. After that, I'm bringing in someone from another store to lead until we can promote internally. The mood shifted slightly. Still quiet, but less tense. Hudson turned to the woman from the back. You said you're a student? She nodded. I take classes 2 days a week. He kept scheduling me during lectures. You'll submit your availability to me directly. We'll honor it. She looked uncertain. Even if it means we're short? Hudson raised an eyebrow. Running short doesn't justify running people over. The other woman, Lena, spoke up. We're supposed to get breaks, but lately we haven't had time. You'll get them, Hudson said. Even if I have to take orders myself. They nodded slowly. Hudson dismissed them to finish prep. He stepped behind the bar next to Marcus. You've been holding this place up, he said. I'm trying, Marcus said quietly. You ever think about leading a team? Marcus glanced over. I don't know if I'm. You're calm under pressure. You take feedback seriously. And you don't talk down to anyone.
Marcus blinked.
No one's ever said that to me. Well, Hudson said, they should've. He looked around the cafe. The line had thinned, the air had cooled, and the staff moved with less hesitation. There were still gaps, still long hours, and low reserves, but something had shifted. Hudson didn't leave until nearly 6. He stayed through the dinner rush, wiping tables, brewing teas, and taking orders. When the last customer left, he helped count the till and restock the fridge. As he walked out, Lena caught up with him near the door. Hey, she said, if you're going to the other stores too. Just be careful. Why's that? He asked. She hesitated. Not everyone's just careless. Some of them. They know what they're doing. They just don't think anyone's watching. Hudson gave a small nod. They're about to find out someone is. She didn't smile, but her shoulders dropped slightly as she turned back inside. Hudson stood under the awning for a moment, watching the lights inside dim. Then he pulled out his phone and opened a note titled Next Doors. At the top, he added one word, Hawthorne. Then he put a star beside it. Hudson waited until Sunday to visit the Hawthorne Cafe. Not because it was convenient, it wasn't, but because Sundays were the pressure test. With fewer commuters and more families, the rhythm shifted. It wasn't about speed, it was about consistency. And according to the customer service reports he'd reviewed, consistency was the one thing this location lacked entirely. He didn't go in undercover this time. Word had spread. The staff at Eastfield and Ashbury had talked, and he'd already received texts from 2 other store managers asking if he was planning to drop by. Hudson didn't answer. He needed to see how Hawthorne operated when they only suspected he might visit, not when they were sure. He arrived 15 minutes before opening and entered through the back with a regional facilities key. The kitchen lights were already on. A woman in her late 20s sat on a crate against the wall, tying her shoes. Another employee moved quietly by the pastry case, setting out muffins one by one. Neither noticed him right away. "Morning," Hudson said. Both staff members froze. The woman on the crate stood slowly.
Hi.
I'm Teresa. I open. "I know who you are," he said gently. "You trained at our first location. I remember." She blinked. "That was a while ago." Hudson nodded once. "Where's your manager?" "In the office," Teresa said, nodding toward the hallway. "She got here 5 minutes ago." He didn't wait. The office door was cracked open. Inside, a tall woman with stark red lipstick and a perfectly ironed blouse sat at the desk, flipping through a clipboard. Her name tag read Rachel, store manager. She didn't look up when he stepped into the doorway. "You're cutting it close," Hudson said. Rachel's eyes flicked up. "Mr. Grant, I was told you might visit." "You weren't told when," he said, stepping inside. "So, this is how you prepare?" She set the clipboard down. "Everything's running on schedule. My team's aware of their tasks. You've had 3 employee complaints filed to HR since March. 2 anonymous, 1 signed. All from this store. All about you." Her expression didn't change. "I manage a tight shift. That's not always popular." "They didn't say you were strict," he said. "They said you were abusive." Rachel stood up slowly. "I take issue with that characterization. You told one of your workers she should drop 20 pounds if she wants to work the front counter. She was violating dress code. She wore the same uniform as everyone else. She was sweating through it." Hudson stared at her. "Is that your defense?" Rachel didn't back down. "Presentation matters. We're customer-facing. If that's not the standard, then what are we even trying to build?" "We're trying to build a place where people are treated like human beings," he said, voice tightening. "Not a stage with a casting call." Rachel folded her arms. "You're undermining experienced managers. These complaints are from underperformers trying to deflect." "Then explain why your turnover rate is double the company average," he said. "Explain why your store is the only one that's been flagged twice for failing to complete staff evaluations." "Twice, Rachel. No reviews, no feedback, no raises." She looked away for the first time. "We've had staffing gaps. I've been covering weekends myself. And yet you had time to write up a cashier for wearing a hair wrap. It wasn't uniform regulation. It's a religious head covering." Rachel didn't respond. Hudson stepped forward. "You're done. You can't be serious. You're creating a hostile environment. You're violating policy. You're gone. Right now." Rachel stood there, stunned. "You're throwing away one of your most experienced managers." "I'm removing someone who forgot that experience doesn't excuse cruelty." She didn't say another word. She handed over her keys, picked up her purse, and walked out of the office without looking back. Hudson followed her to the front, where the rest of the staff had gathered near the bar. They didn't look surprised. He addressed them calmly. "Rachel's no longer with the company. I'll be managing the floor today." A tall man by the bakery case let out a sharp breath. "About time." Hudson looked at him. "Name? Jeremiah. I do open prep. Sometimes bar if we're short." He hesitated. "Which is most days." Hudson stepped behind the counter. "Let's look at the schedule." They pulled it up on the wall-mounted tablet. 3 names filled for the day, including Teresa, Jeremiah, and a younger woman named Sophia, who is currently stocking the fridge. For open slots were marked unfilled. "Who's been doing these solo shifts?" Hudson asked. We rotate, Teresa said. But it's brutal. You don't get to drink water. Forget breaks. Rachel said, if you can lean, you can clean. I've heard that phrase too much this week, Hudson said. She also docked our hours if we asked to leave early, Sophia added softly. Even if we were sick. Were those changes reflected in your pay stubs? There was a pause. Jeremiah spoke first.
No.
We just stopped asking. Hudson pulled out his phone and called payroll. He requested a full audit of time cards from Hawthorne for the last 90 days. Then he turned back to the group. We'll get this staffed properly. But today, we work with what we have. I'll take register and bar. Jeremiah, handle food. Teresa, keep the floor clean and check on customers. Sophia, you good to run the pastry case? She nodded quickly. Then let's open. Despite the thin crew, things ran. Slowly, but they ran. Hudson stayed behind the bar, calling out names and clearing plates. The espresso machine hissed and sputtered. He made a note to have it serviced. Jeremiah worked like a machine, flipping breakfast sandwiches with precision. Teresa moved through the floor, wiping tables, checking in with a calm confidence that hadn't been visible earlier. By noon, the line curved out the door. No one complained. The team was focused, responsive. Hudson noticed the difference in energy. With Rachel gone, they weren't flinching every time someone raised their voice. During a lull, he called HR again. Any response from payroll? They flagged 6 adjustments that were never logged properly, the HR rep said. Looks like hours were changed after submission. Send me the report. I want those employees reimbursed with back pay. And I want a memo issued to all store managers. No one edits time logs without written approval. After the call, he stepped outside to clear his head. A teenager in a hoodie sat on the curb, sipping a smoothie from another shop. He looked up. You the owner? Hudson nodded. Your staff inside's cool, the kid said. The lady before yelled at my sister for asking if a muffin had nuts. She's allergic. Hudson crouched. That won't happen again. The kid shrugged.
All right.
I'll tell her to come back. When Hudson returned inside, the team was resetting for the afternoon rush. He pulled them aside. Starting next week, we're bringing in 2 floaters part-time hires from nearby stores. You'll get backup until we can fully staff. Jeremiah looked surprised. We've been asking for that for months. You shouldn't have had to. He turned to Teresa. You've been consistent all day. Calm, focused. She looked wary. Thanks. How would you feel about being shift lead? She blinked. I wasn't even on the list. You are now. I'll walk you through the training myself. Her voice cracked a little. I'd like that. Hudson looked around. We'll rebuild this store. But rebuilding doesn't mean painting over cracks. It means fixing the foundation. The team nodded. He stayed until close. Helped mop. Carried trash. Checked inventory. He found 3 broken chairs in storage and scheduled a pickup. Sophia mentioned they'd been waiting for replacements for over a month. He ordered 6. By the time the doors were locked, the team looked different. Not polished or perfect, but steadier. Teresa lingered by the register. I didn't think we mattered, she said. You do. She nodded. You'll keep checking on us? I will. Regularly. Personally. She gave a half smile. Then maybe this place can be good again. It will be. As he stepped out, the lights behind him dimmed one by one. The air smelled of coffee grounds and fresh lemon cleaner. Hudson checked his phone. No messages. For once, no emergencies. He walked to his car, opened the door, and sat in the silence. The work wasn't over, but it had started. And this time, he'd keep his eyes on the floor where it mattered most.